There's a lot of conflicting advice when it comes to asparagus. Techniques that get passed around the internet, like, should I snap the woody ends off my asparagus? Should I peel the skin? I'm going to go through which ones work and which ones don't, based on years of growing my own asparagus right here at home and learning from some of the best asparagus farmers in the business. So let's start with, should you snap the woody ends off your asparagus? This bundle I bought at one of the major supermarket chains. It came from Mexico. This asparagus was likely harvested several days ago. I can tell by looking at the bottom ends. Those are very, very dry looking ends. And what happens when asparagus is picked, they use a special tool that goes below the soil level. So it gets part of the woodiest portion of the asparagus stem. Asparagus will start to dry out over time, and it begins at the cut line and works its way up. Now, if I were to take one of these and do the snapping technique, what happens is an incredible amount of waste, because snapping is really kind of an arbitrary technique. It's wherever you apply pressure, it's going to snap. So if I'm down here, or if I'm up here, see? I didn't mean to do that. Look how juicy and green that is. That is edible asparagus that I've just wasted. Good rule of thumb is to cut with your knife about 1.5 inches off the bottom if you're buying supermarket asparagus. If you're buying asparagus from a farmer's market, it has spent less time out of the ground, likely cut that morning or the day before. All you have to do is cut off the little nub at the end that will be drying out, because the rest will be nice and juicy. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to snap way down here, about 1.5 inches up. I'm going there. See? Gorgeous asparagus that you could have eaten. Tender and sweet, that you missed out if you're snapping. So don't do that. Just take your knife and cut 1.5 inches from the bottom of your store-bought asparagus, if it's not locally grown. I have a great little supermarket here in my town that tries to source from a lot of local farms. So I wouldn't apply this technique to their asparagus unless it's coming from out of state. So now we have our trimmed asparagus. Should we peel them? Well, you can think of asparagus like you think about cut flowers. Cut flowers will be fresh and alive for a time, and they will slowly die. So as these dry out, they will become woodier. When you're picking them fresh out of the field, you do not have to peel these. If you are purchasing asparagus from a farmer's market or a small local shop that buys local asparagus, you do not have to peel these. If, like the case of these, they've come from another country, they might need to be peeled if you want super tender asparagus. You should know that a lot of the vitamins and minerals and good fiber are along the outside. So it's a trade-off. I tend not to peel asparagus because I want all that nutrition not to go into my compost bin. Now, some people will say to only peel the thick asparagus because the thick asparagus is older and woodier. Well, that's a myth. Because the asparagus is thicker, it doesn't mean that it's older. This is not baby asparagus. Asparagus emerges from the ground at the same width it will always be. The width never changes. In fact, let me just show you. Come on. Let me just stop and get a pencil. You'll see. I don't need this. It's chilly out today. Okay, come to my garden. You know, I want to clarify something I said earlier. I mentioned that the asparagus is from Mexico. I said it in terms of food miles, like how fresh is our food by the time it gets to our plate. And that asparagus happened to be from Mexico, but I could say the same about California. How fresh is our food by the time it comes from California to here on the East Coast? The United States depends on Latin America for a lot of its produce, especially seasonal things, right? Like asparagus. And we also depend on Latin American farm workers. They are the backbone of the United States agricultural system. And I firmly believe in bridges, not walls. So this is what asparagus looks like. Not much, right? In early April, the shoots begin to emerge from the roots below. I have 3 plants here. The asparagus we eat are the first shoots that come up. For the first month to 2 months, that's what we eat. And eventually, we let these shoots start to grow out and become an actual plant. They become a fern, and they gather energy for the rest of the year and then go dormant, and it happens all over again. We cut down that old growth and it comes back. So I brought you out here to show you that asparagus emerges as the size that you see it when it's on your plate. So here we have, such a thick, fat, juicy one. I brought my pencil out so you can see just how big that one is. And right next to it, there's one that's maybe 3/4 of the size. And then over here, we have one that is just thicker than the pencil. And basically, a pencil is a really good measurement. You don't want to pick any asparagus that is thinner than a pencil. That's the guide for growing at home, because then you'll just let those grow out and become the fern that will gather the energy. I know in the grocery store, they do sell ones that are thinner than this, but if you're growing at home, we don't pick those. But as you can see, this one is not going to become thick like this one. It is going to maintain the width that you see. And it's a similar age. I am going to harvest this maybe tomorrow. Basically, what you see now, it's going to double within 24 hours. So I'll harvest this tomorrow. This one is about the only one that I think I'll show you how we use this special asparagus tool right here. There's a blade at the bottom, and it's designed to dive into the earth so that we can cut the asparagus below the earth line. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So there are a lot of great ways to cook asparagus, but this has such an intensity of flavor. It's also really quick. It's my go-to weeknight asparagus, done in a jiff. Tastes amazing. So lay them out in an even line, and the flame of the broiler is going to almost char the outside. We're going to catch it before it burns, but it's going to crisp up the heads of the asparagus, the skin of the asparagus, and really caramelize the flavor. Run some olive oil. We're gonna toss it just a coat with our fingers. I use extra virgin olive oil because that is the real flavor vehicle for the asparagus. Place your rack one down from the top and broil the asparagus for approximately 10 minutes, turning once so it browns evenly on all sides. These are beautifully tender but not mushy like when you boil them, and their flavor is so concentrated. My favorite is like the crispiness of the top. I could seriously eat this whole plate. Now, if you've got an asparagus question, I've likely already answered that. I have an entire asparagus playlist, a video on the best way to grow it at home, I have a video on why your pee smells like asparagus after you eat it. And I've got another one where I answer which asparagus is sweetest, green, purple, or white.